And to say that this attack in Atlanta was not a hate crime because the terrorist said it wasn't racially motivated, and we're going to take him for his word. He specifically targeted three Asian massage parlors. They weren't even close together. Asian people are being scapegoated like they have for a century in this country, and this has to stop. This has to stop. We cannot be continued to be scapegoated. And this is frankly a pattern of scapegoating that happens in this country. Yesterday, it was Muslim and Southeast Asian people after 9/11. When there's an economic downturn, it's the Latin population. It's always the Black community being scapegoated for so many things. During the Cold War, it was gay people. This scapegoating of entire populations has to stop in this country.
A 21-year-old mass murdering domestic terrorist, who I will not name, shot and killed 8 people, 7 of whom were Asian Americans, 6 of them women, in Atlanta this past Tuesday because, according to Cherokee County Sheriff spokesperson Jay Baker, he claims he had a, quote, sexual addiction, end quote. Very interesting. I'll get back to that sheriff in a minute. Trust me, I will. But before I do, take a look at this clip from CNN host Lisa Ling, who is herself of Asian descent, who shared her thoughts about this attack not being properly called what it is, a hate crime. Watch.
There's something about seeing you that's chilling because you were with us a week and a half ago, and we were talking about the rise of anti-Asian crime in the U.S. Anti-Asian hate crime up 150% in major U.S. cities over the last year. Authorities in Georgia not yet calling this a hate crime. You see something notable in that. Why?
Well, John, there has been this pattern of attacks on Asians. You're right. We just spoke a week and a half ago, and now 7 Asian people, 6 of whom were women, are now dead. And this was a couple days after Mr. Pak Ho was buried in the Bay Area after getting brutally attacked. I mean, it seems that every time I open my social media or my media, there is video or reports of more Asian people getting attacked. In fact, there was video of an Asian grandma who was attacked just yesterday, who beat her assailant up with a stick. And while it was great to see her stand up for herself and fight back, John, you should have heard her cry out with her bloodied face. You hear the pain and the anger in her voice. She's crying out in the language that my ancestors spoke, that they speak Cantonese. And to say that this attack in Atlanta was not a hate crime because the terrorist said it wasn't racially motivated and we're going to take him for his word. He specifically targeted 3 Asian massage parlors. They weren't even close together. And frankly, Atlanta is a hotbed for sex work and sex trafficking, but yet he chose to attack massage parlors that he knew were run by Asian people.
Lisa Ling is referring to the acceptance of the narrative given to police by the gunman himself about what his motivations were. This statement was accepted by the sheriff as legitimate, okay, and spread across the media as fact before any possible investigation could have come to that conclusion that quickly, so quickly after the incident. How do you know that already? This was the local authorities' first public address on this issue. Now, I'm going to play one last clip before I continue to expose that sheriff, because there are some very, typical revelations that have come out about him over the past 24 hours. But before I do that, watch this last clip.
The reality is those numbers and the data don't actually capture the full scope of what Asian Americans are experiencing and have been for some time. Do you think this is changing the conversation at all? And I don't mean just the murders in Atlanta, but I mean more conversation in the last couple of weeks. Is it starting to raise awareness in a meaningful way?
It's an interesting question, Erica, because after this attack on the massage parlor, I saw people posting messages about solidarity and about standing up for Asian people. But how many people have to die for this to really be taken seriously, for there to be more than lip service. I mean, there is real fear among Asian people about going outside of their own homes right now. Asian people are being scapegoated like they have for a century in this country. And this has to stop. This has to stop. We cannot be continued to be scapegoated. And this is frankly a pattern of scapegoating that happens in this country. Yesterday, it was Muslim and Southeast Asian people after 9/11. When there's an economic downturn, it's the Latin population. It's always the Black community being scapegoated for so many things. During the Cold War, it was gay people. This scapegoating of entire populations has to stop in this country.
So the scapegoating she's referring to is obviously this notion that Asians, specifically those of Chinese descent, are all somehow responsible for COVID-19. This comes directly from Trump and his administration and the far right's campaign to blame their lack of effort at containing this virus on the Asian community, as if China told America to open back up and expose everybody to COVID in the name of capitalism. No, Trump did that. Okay, the Trump administration did that. And in many ways, the Biden administration continues that. Okay, but back to the sheriff, Jay Baker. Do you know that it has come out that Sheriff Baker shared anti-Asian racist propaganda on Facebook? Well, if you haven't heard it already, let me read this article to you from the Daily Beast. In an article titled, "Georgia Sheriff Spokesman Posted Racist COVID Shirts on Facebook," Jay Baker incited outrage on Wednesday when he said the 21-year-old who admitted to murdering 8 people at Asian massage parlors was having, quote, "a really bad day," end quote. When I saw that, I nearly lost my mind because you would think that he's this guy's defense lawyer or something, but a Cherokee County, Georgia sheriff's office spokesperson came under fire Wednesday afternoon for pinning the deadly Tuesday shooting rampage that left 8 dead, including 6 Asian women, on a 21-year-old white man's really bad day. Okay. This is what he said. Yesterday was a really bad day for him. And this is what he did. Jay Baker said during the joint news conference with the Atlanta Police Department about 21-year-old, the name that I will not speak, but you see it right there on the screen. But then later down in the article, it says, but it seems the same spokesperson shared racist content online, including pointing the finger at China for the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. The same vitriol advocates say has fueled a horrific surge in violence against Asian Americans, which is what I said at the beginning of this video. In a Facebook page associated with Captain Jay Baker of the Cherokee Sheriff's Office, several photos show the law enforcer was promoting T-shirts with the slogan, quote, "COVID-19 imported virus from China," sort of like writing it the way Trump speaks it, because that's the way he says it. Then it says, quote, "place your order while they last," end quote. Baker wrote with a smiley face on a March 30th photo that included the racist T-shirts. And then it says, quote, "love my shirt," Baker wrote in another post in April of 2020. "Get yours while they last." And then a little bit further down, it says Reynolds's official sheriff's department page lists as part of his prior experience a 2005 to 2008 stint at the Department of State described entirely in abbreviations. And then there you see the abbreviations. This would appear to stand for Worldwide Personal Protective Services, a contract the federal government granted the independent contractor Blackwater USA. That's probably what BWUSA stands for. His campaign page alludes to work in Iraq without naming his employer, but an apparent Reynolds supporter and fellow member of the department shared an image on Facebook of then candidate's security clearance so as to dispel rumors that he had a criminal record in 2016. So the image naming Reynolds showed a contract number corresponding to an indefinite arrangement the State Department inked with Blackwater to provide security guards and control services in 2005. So then it goes into a little bit of the history of Blackwater. So look, this is yet another example of white supremacy protecting itself. White supremacy even protects killers. I mean, this guy is definitely going to jail for a very long time. I don't doubt that. He's not going to get the same level of protection that a police officer would get, but he's gotten some protection. But they're definitely going to throw him under the prison, I'm sure. But it's not so much their lack of action. That doesn't prove the protection. It's in the treatment. Okay. Isn't it amazing how this society allows some people to go as far as murder, but law enforcement doesn't fear for their lives? But when it's black people or anyone deemed dangerous by white capital, the smallest infringement could be a death sentence. Then you have this Georgia sheriff with old Blackwater ties who shares the same type of racist content on his Facebook page that likely has inspired this uptick in anti-Asian violence, as I read just a minute ago from the Daily Beast article. So remember this as you hear conservatives complain about cancel culture, as they complain about Uncle Ben, Aunt Jemima, and Dr. Seuss. Remember whose side has all the killers. Here's a hint. It's not the left. It's not Black Lives Matter, and it's not Antifa. But my name is Brian Lewis. Make sure you share this video, like the video, and subscribe if you haven't already.